Hello and welcome to CBC. A new electronic control system has been launched at Azerbaijan British College from this year. Now parents have the opportunity to monitor the academic progress of their children. We will talk now with its head, Natalia Ambridge, about the novelties in the primary school. Hello, Mrs. Ambridge. We're glad to see you in our studio.
Hello, thank you for having me.
My first question, what's new at Azerbaijan British College starting from new academic year?
We have very many new innovations. For example, as you may know, well, you do know, you've already interviewed Ms. Cowie. We have a new head of secondary and a new head of primary, myself. And we hope to be focusing a lot on curriculum developments and on various innovations in the curriculum in order to be able to sort of elicit the best learning for our students. As far as the curriculum is concerned, clearly we follow the national curriculum here and enhanced by the Cambridge International System. And we're looking at both traditional techniques and also we're looking at enrichment discovery type learning. So we're trying to create a system whereby our students are obviously exposed to all of the necessary objectives in each year group to be able to cover all of the learning that they need to cover for, say, year 1, year 2, etc., systematically in order for them to progress throughout the curriculum and to obviously go through and acquire that knowledge that they need eventually for secondary school. But also we want to offer a breadth of experience to widen their horizons. It's an international school, and so therefore we have international teachers here, and these teachers are all able to offer experience from their own teaching backgrounds. And so therefore we come together, we work as a staff, and we try to create a sort of our educational philosophy really is around discovery learning and enabling, creating the opportunities to enable the child to discover and learn. That doesn't mean that we leave them to it. Of course, the lesson is planned. The lesson is planned acutely, but they have then the ability within the space to be able to make connections, to understand to have the opportunity to be able to understand various topics and also to be able to look further. So those would be the enrichment activities. So for example, if a child finds that actually the interest has been sparked about a historical figure, they then have the opportunity to be able to research that further and in more depth. And so therefore you don't want to limit a child. I think that's very important, that you don't simply say, no, you just cover this in year 1, you can't do year 2 work. We want to always be able to enhance that for them. And so therefore if their learning takes them, their imagination takes them in one direction, we want to be able to provide for that and enable it.
Mrs. Ambridge, many people think that primary school is not as important as secondary education. Would you agree with this opinion? If not, why?
No, I wouldn't agree with it, and I think perhaps only a person who doesn't have their own child would think such a thing. Of course, we know that the early years are fundamental and that is the time at which you're building that foundation for learning and that thirst for learning and the interest in learning. And so really, those are very, very crucial, critical years. So I would say the reverse. Perhaps my counterpart in the secondary would disagree.
It's interesting to understand these people when they said that fundamental things are building when you have fundamental knowledges, and they starting from secondary school. Would you agree with that? If not, why?
But because you have to have a basis. You build knowledge upon knowledge. And so therefore, first of all, you have to be receptive to that knowledge. And that's what we do in primary. We open up, we like to think that, children, as you know, every parent knows, you have a child in a new situation, automatically they're absorbing information. And from that comes learning. And so therefore, this is what we're doing. We're creating the opportunities for our children to be able to learn and experience the world.
So you mean that if they would not understand how to learn, they would not love learning, they will never start learning fundamental things in secondary school or whether they're going to go to college, to the place where they're going to work?
I think that children we know naturally learn. I mean, that is part and parcel of being a young human being along the developmental spectrum. So our children, all we want to do is be able to enable their learning, to be able to give them as many opportunities to sort of formalize that learning, to start with their mathematics and their reading and their literacy and their phonics, and to bring all of those together in order to be able to help expand their knowledge. But of course, they're learning all the time.
Logic skills and interest in art are taught starting from the public primary school. Chess, logic, art classes are taught from the very first grade. What does Azerbaijan College have to offer to primary school students?
We have all of these things. We have chess, we have a chess club that is run by the world second in ranking, the second world champion and European champion. And so our students actually have the ability to be able to join those clubs, and they're encouraged to do so. Very much along the British system, where you have lots of extracurricular clubs, but our curriculum itself focuses on the arts and humanities, maths, obviously the underpinning of the core subjects as well, maths, English and science, and it's further enhanced by the other subject areas.
Is it really important to involve kids in this mentioned games, activities? Does it develop something special in kids at that young ages?
I think it does, because it enables them to have a critical thinking, flexibility of thinking strategically. In order to play chess, you can't just move the pieces as you know how to move them. You have to actually think about your game, think about how you're starting your game, what your goals are, and obviously you want to checkmate at the end, so you have to think about your opponent is going to play against you. So this really is critical thinking. So we want to enable our students to be able to apply that sort of thinking into any given problem, because as you and I both know, life is unpredictable. So for example, I find myself here in Azerbaijan for the first time in my life. I'm encountering new things all the time, but I'm not totally helpless, because obviously I've experienced life in other countries, and so therefore we learn from each of those experiences and you apply to your new setting.
Mrs. Ambridge, I have very modern question, very trend question according to Western countries. It's very popular to develop entrepreneurial skills of students in the Western countries. How much attention is paid to this in British College?
A huge amount. Again, it all goes back to being an independent thinker. We want to enable our students to be able to, once they leave college, to be able to live independently, and being able to manage, for example, your finances is critical. So at a very early age, we invite the major high street banks that we have over into our schools, and they come, they give talks, they help us with various resources. We have set up accounts in schools. Obviously, that these are not actual accounts, but they're simply accounts for the children to be. Yeah, they're accounts for the children to be able to understand. You know, how to save money, for example. They have to understand that what goes in, they have to be careful that what goes out doesn't match it. So they're always in credit, for example, and so they learn that type of terminology as well. So they have that right from the beginning. And then as far as entrepreneurial skills, our students are encouraged to develop, for example, project work. This is something also that we're doing in Azerbaijan British.
It's so interesting. At the very first grade, what are the projects? How these little kids, how do they look like, this project?
Even from nursery, setting up a shop, being a shopkeeper, having your little till, having your money, being able to come and buy things, role play, that's fundamental. That's how it starts, from those very, very early moments. And that's the opportunity for a parent to come and actually, when you're doing it, for example, in a home environment, to be able to say, to be able to explain, to give change, how we pay for things. And then later on in the actual primary level classes, they have projects where they can, for example, they could decide that they would like to organize a trip somewhere. So first of all, they have to research the area, where they're going to go, why should they go there, what learning will they have out of it, how they should set about that project? Do they need to transport themselves there? If so, who's going to pay for the transport? And then they could arrange to create a spreadsheet to think about the money that they need to have coming in order to be able to pay for the transport. So there's lots of different elements that go in to a project like that. And that just helps them to actually to be able to see that these are many of the things that face you eventually in the real world.
What material and technical resources does Azerbaijan British College have for little students?
Well, we have all of the usual resources that we would have, for example, in a college in a school in the UK. So we have iPads, we have interactive whiteboards, they have obviously their music facilities. So we have it's on a par. It's very much on a par. And of course, we have our greatest resources are our teachers and our teaching assistants. And they are there nurturing the children and making sure that actually they have a productive learning experience.
Starting from this academic year, you will act as the head of primary school. Our congratulations with this new appointment. What will be your primary focus as you run that department?
I think our primary focus, first of all, I've already met quite a few of our parents, and that's been wonderful to meet them and to hear about their previous experiences. Very many of them have had, wonderful things to say about the school, so that's always very encouraging to hear as a newcomer as well into the school. I know the plans that our principal has in place to further develop the school as well. He's had outstanding results. The teachers have obviously, and the students working together have enabled that, and they've been absolutely outstanding on a level of many top British schools. So from that aspect, the teaching that we have is I would say, top at the moment. It's quite exemplary. However, having said that, there's always room for improvement. And that is exactly what we can't sit and think to ourselves that actually the job has been completed. It's never complete, and you're always learning, you're always trying to innovate and modify. I think something that we would like to do definitely is foster a communication channel with parents.
I have a question. You said something about communications with parents, innovation. I like that word. Do you have personal vision, and how would you impact the work you do in school you work for? Innovation. What kind of ideas you have?
Really, as far as innovation is concerned, we're looking at all of the latest research in teaching and learning, and there's a great body of work. I would say that what we're trying to do is further enhance the breadth of the curriculum. So we've looked very clearly at our core topics, our subjects, but now we're looking at enhancing it and actually to enhance the various skills that the students have to develop that critical, incisive thinking that we were just talking about through all of the methods that you've mentioned. So we're looking at that very closely, but also I want to very much work with our parental community, because parents are our greatest resource. We have a great many parents who are in lots of sectors themselves, and we could benefit from their experience. We'd be very happy for parents to come perhaps and share their experiences with some of the class through careers guidance, through careers talks, but also for them to share their ideas with us. But clearly we have to do that in a structured way. It's impossible to do that if everyone is speaking to you at the same time. So the best way to do that really is, if you have some wonderful idea, is to be able to share, for example, with your class teacher if it pertains to the local environment. If it's something whole school, then it would be very good if we could actually receive, for example, an email with some of their ideas.
Mrs. Ambridge, it was great talking to you. It was my pleasure to receive all the information you told us. We wish you all the best in your work.
Thank you very much.
This was Natalia Ambridge, head of primary school, and today we spoke about the novelties introduced at Azerbaijan British College. See you next time.